Next up, we have another inspirational leader. We will get to hear about why change management should not be an adventure. Get ready for some best practices on how to manage data-driven change and in the long run, climb to the top of the mountain. Please welcome up a long-term Avow's friend, a true change maker, McDonald's Nordics Media and Digital Experience Lead, Kim Jørgensen.
Thank you very much, Joanna. I think it could actually be interesting to ask your GPT, who is actually best at karaoke at Avow's, and then match it with the live performance tonight to actually measure the accuracy. So let's look at that in the break. But meanwhile, I would like to talk about another mountain, which is called the change management mountain. And as this quote says, the word adventure has got overused. For me, when everything goes wrong, that's when the adventure starts. And I feel actually the same about change management. If something goes on an adventure here, then something is wrong. Because for me, change management is a very structured, very planned process that actually can lead to very good results. But if you start going on adventure in different directions, that's when things actually breaks. Johanna just introduced me before. I have around 22 years experience within both McDonald's and media agency business. And when we come to mountains, then I actually climb one mountain once in real life, plenty more in work life. And then I'm always thinking about what's actually next before finalizing it, which is probably a blessing and a curse. Especially for my team, it's a curse because we never get to finish things that well. But anyway, we set off for a very, very big mountain. We set the mountain called content automation. We wanted to transform the way we work with content. And today I will go through 4 steps in our journey. First of all, the challenge, then how we actually create the foundation, then some key lessons that we have learned and I would like to share, and some final thoughts. But to start with, for us to have a very successful transformation is actually about understanding why do we actually need to change? What is the reason why? Is this just a new system that is better than the old one, or what is actually the issue here? For us, this is not the discussions that we are having. It's actually from a guest perspective. What is with our guest experience? How are the guests using our restaurants? How are they ordering the food, consuming the food? What are their needs? So it's a very clear understanding of our customer needs that actually sets the foundation for, or actually set the direction of our change. And it's not just about the customers, it's also about how we are structured internally. Because one thing is to understand what we need to deliver, another thing is actually to understand how you're operating today and what needs to be changed in order to actually deliver on the customer's expectations. And as you can see here, we had a lot of different challenges across the 4 Nordic markets when we start climbing this mountain. And one of them actually being the 4 different Big Mac, as you can see here. Because you probably think a Big Mac is a Big Mac is a Big Mac. It's not in the Nordics, apparently, when we started this project. We have 4 different images of a Big Mac. So how can you start going into automating the content production process when you are working with different content pieces across 4 markets? That is actually impossible. But we did reach the top of this mountain, the first mountain, and I will just show you a video about this whole journey so you understand what we have been through, and then we will talk about what we actually did to achieve it. So what you just saw in the videos here was some of the pieces of the foundation and the result of it. And when setting out the foundation, we asked the question, why? What is it actually we are doing, and how do we anchor it in the whole business? So we had 3 key anchors here. First of all, our strategic, what we call big bets. So these are the most important initiatives that we are doing in our business to actually make sure that we are also here tomorrow. And here is all about the customer experience, which you just saw in the video. The second one is our brand architecture. Again, going from 4 Big Macs to 1 Big Mac, and all the rest you just saw with the whole content. So we have to start more or less from scratch building our whole brand architecture and how we want to communicate and the photos that we want to take of our burgers, etc. And then finally, it also requires a lot of new technologies. I will touch on this in a bit, but there was a huge anchor into how we are actually viewing technologies and working with technologies in our company. But the first question we also looked at was, why does change management actually fail? So instead of just jumping into the work, then we actually sat back and said, okay, we have tried a lot of projects before. Some went well, some didn't went well. But the projects where it went wrong, what was actually happening there? What did we do of mistakes? And I mean, there are no surprises into the areas of why change management goes wrong. It is the usual suspects: communication, management buy-in, and culture differences. But just to have this top of mind actually made us do a very, very good and structured job in make sure that we would not fail in these areas. So when we looked at the communication engagement, we have had our day-to-day people, the one who are actually performing the task in the beginning of the project right from start. So this is actually from a picture from the first workshop, where we actually had a very explorative workshop and brainstorm with the team, so we understand what they need and they understand the journey that we are going through. And this has been a key throughout the whole project. And then secondly, also management buy-in. And here I'm not just talking about going up to the management, get a budget approved, get it into the project plan, but this is actually have the management to understand the journey that we are on, that this is not just something that we are building and then we close it down. We are transforming things. Things will change significantly. And it taps a bit into the cultural differences. Now, the 4 Nordic markets are not that different when it comes to cultural differences, but if you move beyond the Nordic markets, there can be huge differences. We had a good example last year. We had a speaker at our Nordic summit within McDonald's, and he has asked a lot of customers in the whole of Europe questions. Do you actually believe your boss got the answer? And in the Nordic markets, the answer was probably between 10 and 15%. Nobody believes the boss got the answer, and I fully believe in that too. But if you just go to Germany, just cross the border from Denmark from where I am, it's more than 80% that believes the boss got the answer. That's a completely different transformation journey that you're on if this is the way that you're operating and this is the belief in the company. So when we then sat down, we actually made this very, very bold statement that we are not optimizing current state, we are building the future state, while knowing the future is always in motion. So this was what we went to the management and said, this is what we are doing. We don't know exactly where we're going to end up. We don't know exactly when we're going to end up there, but we need the room to play. We need the feel to actually explore things, change things, be very flexible. And you need to understand we are building the future, and the future will change. So what you have in a year's time, it might change in 4 years' time, because the world is changing so fast, which we just saw in the other presentations. And that also meant that we said we are not going to follow the normal structure. So it's not going to be the usual senior people that are going to participate in this projects here. No, I'd rather have some of the very digital-minded people who are working on a day-to-day basis part of the project, and not some senior person who are just there because the person has been working there for many years. So we went from this structure to a fit-for-purpose structure. And it's also a fit-for-purpose structure that changed over time in the journey, because some parts of our transformation is a lot about technology, where we have more IT people involved, and other parts is actually marketing operation model tools, where we actually need the people who actually do the day-to-day work as key part of it, so understand their needs so we can give them the right tools to operate. And that leads into the whole MarTech discussions, which is the third anchor I mentioned before, where we made it clear from the beginning, we don't believe that all-in-one platform is going to solve it. Those days are gone, in our opinion, and I know it's a big discussion in itself here, but this is at least our opinion here. We're going to go for a flexible and modular build-up of technologies. And this actually put a huge pressure on the IT department, because then they don't need to have that many people who are maintaining the big platforms, but they rather need a lot of people who are very good at integrating small SaaS solutions, services, etc., etc. So that has a huge impact on the IT department. And as mentioned, it's a big discussion in itself, but I will just say here, our recommendation is here, be very clear on your prioritized need. Don't go in and just invest in something because it looks good. Think out what your needs are and then build on a modular. This is our recommendation. We believe that this is the success moving forward. And then change it when it needs to be changed. So a lot of time was based on the foundation. Some of the other learnings from the project here, we're going to share four of them here. First of all, accept that you need a long-term outlook. And I actually put in constant here just before presenting here, because you need to always look ahead. You need to have people who are in a kind of innovative team that are looking 2, 3, 5 years ahead. What are the new technologies? How could they actually impact? So you don't see it as a project, but actually see it as a journey. And in our case, this was in the beginning of the project. We saw a lot of different steps, defined them, had different teams looking at how can we innovate, how can we actually make it come live, and run, which is what we call the implementation part. But this was just one piece of it. We also had a roadmap, and still have a roadmap, which is looking 2 to 5 years ahead in the future. And we do also have AI here as a phase 7. We are right now in between phase 4 and 5. But it's important to constantly have this outlook and change it, adapt it. And it will change. I'm sure that there will be other phases between phase 5 and 6 and 6 and 7, and then the list will be longer as we move ahead, just like there are sub-phases underneath here. So my main point here is that it really, really takes a lot of time to do change management. And I really want to say, avoid the short-term planning. There must be a commitment for the long term, and you must have time to explore, because there's so many opportunities there. To just go into the most sexy, shiny star here might not be the right choice for you. You need to really explore what actually works best for you. And then also to change your plans. We are, I wouldn't say constantly, but we have several times changed our time plans because new needs has arisen, new opportunities have come in, and we must make sure that we have our team to can follow it all the time. We can probably do it in the innovation team, but if the people who are doing the actual work can't keep up with it, then we're definitely going to fail. So no rush is the key message here. But of course, as I said in the beginning, it's all about having a very, very good structure, a very good approach to it, so it doesn't become an adventure. And for this, of course, you really need to have a very clear mind of how you're going to build the whole project here. So when we started this first part of the journey, we had, as you can see, a lot of mountains here, but we have basically 4 mountains. This, the blue one was manage and store as a content repository. Plan, brief, and proving. How are we actually communicating with our creative agency, proving content? RFI, RFP, actually finding out which vendors are out there, how we're going to run the process, select the right one. Then we have the brand, 4 Big Mac into one, huge task. And then we had a project coordination team to make sure that we were actually coordinated across all these work streams. And then we had a change management team that ensured that our team was along all the way, and we didn't lose in anybody on the way in the communication. And we did visualize it like this as a mountain, and how could we actually reach the top? Which base camps do we actually need to reach? And this is not something that we can just take one journey and then suddenly we're on top of the green but haven't started a red one. That's impossible. So we understand the interlinked between all the different work streams, so we could take the journey together as we move along. And besides that, we also have very, very detailed milestones overview, because there are a lot of details, a lot of discussions, a lot of things that you need to make a decision on as you move ahead. So a very, very structured approach to it, with a lot of the usual documents here is key to it. But most importantly, I will say that is actually the people. It's back to the people business again here, and that is to have an expert climbing crew. Because when you are climbing mountains, you do it as a team. And if you have one weak link or if you're leaving one behind, it's going to fail. You need to walk hand in hand up the mountain. And this is something that is very much rooted in our DNA at McDonald's. As our founders said, none of us is as good as all of us. So this is something that we strongly believe in, and it's also something that we really are talking to our partners, Avaos, DDB, and other partners about. This is how we want to operate. So when we set out this expert team, as you can see here, we had a lot of people who understand digital. We have the creative agency, we have the CRM agency, we have the markets, IT department, brand team, etc. So we took the people we actually thought was most fit for purpose. And that, again, back to we're not just taking the senior people in the hierarchy, we're actually taking the people who actually understand what this is about and can contribute to the project. And I must say, personally, I was in the middle here, trying to actually orchestrate all this. And yes, it is tough sometimes because you do have a lot of different opinions. You have a lot of people who are saying different things or want different things. So one thing that we experience here is that you actually need to have a strong leadership. You need to make the tough decisions sometimes. Listen to everybody. I had individual meetings every week with all partners, as well as a joint meeting a week where we discuss the issues. But to be honest, I mean, it's not like there were any big conflicts, but there are different opinions. People need to ventilate them, and we need to find common ground, because climbing is a team sport. So the message was we need to find a solution together, make a decision, and move forward. So this was really embedded in our approach. And then, of course, as mentioned several times, actually engaging the end users. This is for several work streams here, because the climb is only successful if we make the top together. We can build this fancy setup, we can make processes, etc. At the end of the day, if the people operating it, you can see it like a plane. We build a fancy plane, but if the pilots can't fly it and they crash down, then something has gone wrong. Then we have gone on an adventure. And then I will also say, finally, I mean, the execution, as you probably can see, is a lot about communication. I think we have probably over-communicated in this whole project, not just to the team, but to a lot of other stakeholders. Our business is built up of franchisees who are running the restaurants. Try to explain a journey like this to them. They don't understand it. They understand how to sell burgers, but they don't understand anything of this. So we had a lot of different communications going to a lot of different stakeholders, making sure that everybody felt safe. And for the people who are going to fly the plane or operate it, was actually on the track. And it's hard work. This is not fun. This is not sexy. This is bloody hard work, but it's so important for the success. So to have bold ambitions is very good. You should have that, always have that. But in the end, the success comes down to the day-to-day climb. And these are some of the, what you can say, approaches or thoughts that we took into to the whole project. We have to be agile in our mindset, not in the work process, but we have to adjust, we have to adapt when necessary, and that goes into the flexibility in the details. We also have to make decisions quick. I mean, we can't drag out decisions for months and months and months. We need to have a solution and then move on, and then constantly communicate what is actually this about. And thereby, we're actually avoiding conflicts. So we have active conflict resolution, which is going back to all the different partners coming in here. So these were some of the lessons that we have learned there. But if I should just summarize and give some final thoughts about the whole journey, like a take-away buffet, then I will say transformation, that's not an adventure. It can be planned for, and it should be planned for. I've shown a couple of slides, a couple of approaches that we took here. There's so much more into it. But it really requires time, hard work. It requires a lot of people that are dedicated to it. And it really requires that you get the freedom to operate from the management. So that part of the foundation is crucial. And then it's also about just taking the time. Don't rush. I mean, if there are hard deadlines in projects like this, I mean, I have several times said I don't want a hard deadline. I can say, yes, we're probably going to deliver in Q4. If it's going to be Q1, that's what it's going to be. And that has been an acceptance from the beginning, which actually makes it so easy to operate. And then finally, I will say, for me, this is not about just optimizing things. Optimizing things could be we are swapping one technology with another one, or we are changing the process a bit. This is about building the future state. And then I will just say the final thing is also remember to celebrate the successes, because it's so hard work to actually get to the top, but it's such a big relief when you actually get to the top and you actually done something that you thought you could never do. But once you're there, it's bloody good. So this was my final words, and I just wish you good luck with your climb or your climbs in the future.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you. That was quite a story. I can almost feel the wind chill on the top of the mountain. Before we get to the questions, I have to say we're only at the first part of our expert talks. We've talked about AI, we had some Legos, some burgers, but also a very subtle mountaineering theme. I don't think many noticed, but there's something going on. And all of this in a very spiritual environment. So let's see where this is going. But some questions, Kim. You shared quite many lessons from this expedition that you and the team took. Is there something specific that stands out, something that really contributed more than the other factors to your success?
I would say it's difficult to say, because there are a lot of factors, and I think the whole foundation part is crucial, that is set in the right way. But if there is one thing that is more important than others, that is the end user engagement and acceptance. Because that's when it actually becomes live, and that's actually what is being done there, is going to reach the customers and create better customer experience, which in the end is all about. So that part is crucial. If you don't get that right, the rest really doesn't matter. But it can't stand alone. You need the other parts as well.
But at least make sure that the pilots know their cockpits, basically.
Yeah.
Sounds good. What about the business angle? At Avaus, we like to talk about our obsession about results. So now we talked a lot about the people side and change mountain. That's basically part of everything we do. Change is never going away. But what about the business side? Did you have a business case, or how did the kind of business perspective come into all of this climbing?
There is actually a quite big part in this project which is about business cases. I didn't show that today. But one thing going on this journey is actually to understand that we have, for us, a burning platform for making a better customer experience. We know that we're going to lose momentum over time if we don't change things, if we don't become more personalized or relevant in our communication and build a foundation for that. So that's one part of the business case. But it also goes down to the very end about the cost for producing creative material. I mean, we come from a world where we actually produce every single image manually at our agency. If we want to produce just double the amount of creative material to be more relevant, it's double the cost. We can't afford that. That's impossible. So the whole automation way is also to show that we can deliver on the customer needs at a much lower cost. Because today it takes 30 seconds for us to produce an offer in our app, because we have a template, put product, price, message in, done. And that takes days before, and a lot of communication forward and backward with the agency. So that's a new way of working, and that's a very big part of the financial part of the business case, which is so important for the management buy-in.
I can imagine. Yeah. But with those words, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big hand to Kim Jørgensen. Thank you very much.